सही है,
जी,
करें?
जी, बिस्मिल्लाह करें। अहमद।
So today we're going to talk about IELTS and TOEFL. So I'm going to be the moderator for IELTS and the speaker for IELTS. So uh, IELTS stands for the English International English Language Testing System, and it's conducted worldwide. It is valid in most countries except for I think America, where TOEFL is needed. Maybe it also covers America too, but Hamoud will cover that in his own speech. Okay, and next is uh, what I'm going to tell you about is why you should take IELTS, and it's for three basic procedures. If you want to go for higher studies, if you want to go for immigration, and then if you have a job, if you want to apply for a job somewhere outside your country, and they require English language as their medium of speaking and conversation, then IELTS is necessary. But who can take IELTS is the question. So the thing is, anyone above the age of 16 and who has a valid passport can apply for and can take the test for IELTS. And next, we are going to discuss about Mood, please. Next. So IELTS is governed by University of Cambridge in the UK. It has two main bodies. One is IDP. It is also called AEO in Pakistan. It is the governing body from Australia. But this one and British Council both are valid throughout the globe. So it's no different if you take the IELTS from the British Council or IDP or AEO, whatever. AEO is the same as IDP, I again state. So next we're going to talk about the types for IELTS. So basically two are mentioned here, but there are more than two. Like there is general training, there is academic IELTS, and then we have IELTS A1. So IELTS A1 is basically for, you can call it the housewife level IELTS. Okay. So if some countries they demand you for a sponsor uh, for a spouse visa, even if your spouse is in that country, if you have to go, you have to take IELTS, and this is the most basic level, and they demand you to take IELTS A1. But it's not of any concern to us, so we're not going to discuss it today. And then we have general training. This is for if you have a job somewhere and they just require minimum English language uh, proficiency, and then they tell you that we require IELTS general training and not IELTS in general, basically. Okay, they will tell you wherever you're applying, they will tell you we require IELTS general training or IELTS academic. IELTS academic is for higher education, and if you're going for a more technical job like a research associate or something like that. Okay, then we're going to talk about the test structure. So the first thing is there are four parts for IELTS, like everyone knows. The first one is listening. The second one is reading. The third one is writing, and the fourth one is speaking. So we're going to individually discuss each and every one of these in depth and in detail as much as with regards to the time constraints. And then uh, we are going to discuss. Now we're going to discuss listening. The next one is listening. So the time allowed for this is 40 minutes in roughly basically. But as soon as the cassette ends, basically there's a recording playing. Okay, you can't go back in the recording. You can't stop the recording. It's not up to you. You just have a booklet with you. You have to basically you have the question paper with you. Okay, you have to be ticking and responding to all the questions in the same time the recording is playing. Okay, it's not like you will have a chance to listen to the recording again. So the cassette will play once, and then you are supposed to be answering all the questions in the same time. but there's a trick to it. So the thing is, they tell you to. So there are 40 questions basically, 40 questions. So they tell you to look at the first four questions from the start. Okay, you have okay. When the test starts, the first part you do is listening. The second one is reading. The third one is writing. And fourth one, which is speaking, it basically takes place 1 week before or one in the week before or in the week after this these three tests. Okay, so the thing is listening. If we talk about listening, so you have they give you one sheet. Okay, one answer sheet. It is it has two colors. One it could be pink from one side and blue from the other side. But they will tell you pink is the side for listening and blue is the side for reading. Okay, so you have to be respectable of the colors. You have to answer the questions for reading on the reading side and the questions for listening on the listening side. So you have one sheet, but you have two different colors on each side. Okay, you have 40 questions of listening and 40 questions of reading. So just be mindful of which side you're using, because otherwise your whole listening and reading test would be invalid, making your IELTS itself invalid. So just be mindful of that. And it's not of that much what's it called stress. You shouldn't be taking so much stress. It's a very easy test. It's not like it's not like if, if someone has their mic on, please. Okay. Okay. So the thing is, hello.
जी, जी,
Can you hear
कंटिन्यू
me?
रखें।
Okay. Okay. So the thing is, you have a booklet, the question booklet. Okay. You have questions written right in front of you. The cassette will play, and it there is a guide voice from the start. The guide voice will guide you. Look at the first four questions. Okay. Then you look at the first four questions. It could be name. It could be address. It could be anything in the world. It could be the color. It could be number or something. Okay. It's not uh, scientific. It's very easy. So then you have like 20 seconds. They won't tell you that it's 20 seconds, but it is 20 seconds that you have to look at all the four questions. Okay. Then you look at all the four questions. You have a gist in your mind that these four things are going to be asked in the conversation that is going to be played next. So now the guide voice tells you we're going to start the the recording. Okay. Then the recording starts, and you have your pen right in front of the first question. So suppose the first question is name. Okay, so the cassette plays, the recording plays, and there's a conversation between a salesman and a buyer. Okay, so it's like, hello, talking from this company. So you have a company name, but there's nothing written as company name. So you just keep it in mind, but it says, I am, for instance, I am, for instance, Nathan speaking. So you have the name now, Nathan. So he will also tell you, sometimes this happens, they will also tell you the the spellings for the name, like Nathen, and you have to write Nathan right in front of the name. Okay. Then he will tell you the address from for their company or from which he's talking. Okay. Then he's talking to the other person.
डॉक्टर साहब आपका म्यूट हो गया है माइक, उसको अनम्यूट कर लें।
Okay. So I was talking about the address. So the next question could be the address. So he would be telling the other person that the address is 4 Greenwatt Way, Primary Road, Slough. Okay, so or Greenwatt Way, Primary Road, Slough, and he will give you the spellings too. Most of the time, what will happen? The person will tell you the spellings. So it's not like you have to know the spellings for everything, and then you have to write the address right in front of the question. Okay, then the thing is, next question is going to be like the number, and he will tell you if you want to inquire anything from us, This is our company number, and he will tell you the number two times. Like the first time is going to be 0447716503082, and he will say, I will repeat it again, 0447716503082. So this is how everything is going to be played. So once these questions are over, the first four, then the guide voice will appear again. Okay, you'll hear the guide voice again, and he will say, or they will say, look at the next four questions, or next five questions, next three questions, whatever. Then you will look at the next three or four questions in the same time, in the 20 seconds. They won't tell you it's 20 seconds, but it is 20 seconds most of the time. So you will look at the next four questions, and then the guide voice will come back, and they will say, now we are going to start the recording again, and please respond to the question in the same time. Be mindful, in this time you are not using your answer sheet, you're just using your question paper. Okay, so just be mindful of that. You will have separate 10 minutes for filling your answer sheet. Okay, so it's not like you have to fill in the question paper as the recording is playing. It's not like that. You just fill in your answers on the question sheet. Okay, so I will tell you what kind of questions you will face. Like it could be fill in the blanks, it could be true false. Most of the time it's fill in the blanks. Most of the time, but sometimes it is true false, and sometimes it's like MCQs, and but it is from the conversation. Always remember it's from the conversation. So the first thing is the first section, the first 10 questions. It could be a conversation between two people, a buyer or a seller, or it could be any social event. Okay, any social topic that two people are speaking about. Then because we have to be sorry, the what's it called? I forgot. The hardness of the test, it keeps on increasing. So you have to be mindful of that. Okay, so the next
Difficulty
is,
level.
yeah, the difficulty level is always increasing from the first part to the last part. Okay, then again you will always face a dialogue between two people until your last part. The last part is always some sort of a research topic being explained by a researcher or a professor. Okay, it's but it takes place in the IELTS academic, not in IELTS general training. They are very completely different. All those sections. There are four sections. There are going to be dialogue between people, but it's not going to be a research topic of any sort. Okay, and it's even in academic IELTS, it's not that hard. You have to just pick up the words, and you have to be writing them right in the same time. Okay, so IELTS. The trick for you in this part is just keep in mind you have to be looking at two questions at the same time. It's not like you can just look at one question and that's enough. It's not like that. So for instance, you're looking for the color. Okay, so you think we're talking about, they're talking about a car right now. So the color of the car is what is going to be in the answer, and they talk about some other color. Okay, the color of the sky right now or something else. So the answer to that question is already passed, and you still thinking the answer to that question is going to be the color of the car, but it never comes up. So now what happens is you miss this question, you miss the next question, and then you miss the other two right in front of them, right after them. Okay, so this is never a good approach. You always have to be looking at two questions at one time. So if the question, if you lose this question, the color of the car, you still have the next question, and if something clicks up, then I can't write that question now. I have to be looking to the next question now. I have to be attentive of the next question, so that you don't lose the marks for them, because all of these pertain to equal marks. That's what you should be most mindful of. Just always look at two questions at the same time. And in the last part, they won't give you like four questions to look at. They will give you the whole section, like 10 or 11 questions to be looking at the same time. So what you have, because you won't know you won't have the time to read through all those questions. Just read through the first four, five, and then when those end, then read the next two, then the next two, then the next two, as the recording is playing. You will have to do that, but it's not that hard. You will have to basically be practicing. Like if you practice 10 times, then I think it's more than enough. You can even score 38, 39. It doesn't matter out of 40. It's easy. It's very easy. The listening part is the easiest part of them all. And then we're going to talk about writing. Oh, sorry, reading. Next is reading. So the time allowed for this is 60 minutes. Okay. Yeah. For listening, you would get like 25, 30 minutes as the recording is playing. And when that time is over, then you will have 10 minutes to put all your answers onto the answer sheet. It could be true, false, it could be multiple choice, it could be anything. So if there is true, false, you will be writing true, false. If they ask you yes or no, then you write yes or no, not true, false. And then if you have multiple choice, like you have an A option, then you write A. If you have any number, then you write the whole number there, like 0447716. Okay, so the answer sheet is filled with all sort of different answers. It's not like it's going to be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or true, false, true, false, true, false. This is the mixture of all these three things. There could be more. So sometimes what happens is there could also be a map. Okay, like for instance, like our University of Veterinary and Animal Sciences. When you get in from the main gate, you reach the tunnel, and then there's a medicine clinic right next to it. Okay, so they will give you a map. There's a map right in front of you in the listening part, and the conversation is playing. Okay, there is a guide that is guiding anyone throughout the map of the university, and the map basically has points written on it, like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Okay, but there is one or two points that are depicted, that are written on the map, like the tunnel. It could be, you know they could start it from the tunnel. The tunnel is written, but the rest of the things you have to guess. Okay, like point A is right next to the tunnel, and the guide tells you right next to the tunnel is the outdoor or medicine clinic. Then you write outdoor or medicine clinic, whatever. And then he says, when you go through the tunnel, right behind the tunnel you can find the administration building. So you see there is a point C right behind the tunnel, and it's because he said it's the administration building, you will write administration building. Okay, it's always good to write the whole words, not half the words, like admin building. Write the whole words, administration building. And then if you go behind that, you can find the VC office. So if you look at the map, there could be a point H or something behind that, behind the administration building, and it has H as its demarcation, but you now know it's the VC office. Then you write VC office at point H. Okay, so in the answer sheet, you will have to be writing medicine clinic, VC office, administration building, true, false, yes, no, or ABC, whatever. They, all these things are included in your answer sheet. Okay. So now we're talking about reading. Reading has three passages. All these three passages have 20 minutes each. You should be completing each passage in 20 minutes. A passage could have like 7 to 8 paragraphs. Okay, so what you should do is after every paragraph, after every passage, you have the corresponding questions to it. Okay, so what you should do is always go and read the first question, not start. You shouldn't start reading the passage. You should always start reading the question. Just read the first question, like it could be regarding pollution. Okay, so now you know that you're looking for the word pollution. Okay, so now you start the passage, and it says environment is, and it starts talking about the environment. So first paragraph, and there's no mention of pollution. The second paragraph, and there's no mention of pollution. And then in the third paragraph, right in the mid part of the paragraph, you find pollution. Now you know my answer is coming from this particular line or after this. Okay, so you find the answer to that, for instance, in the last line of this third paragraph. Okay, So you write the answer on your question sheet, the same question sheet that they provide you. You still have the answer sheet, but I'll tell you what to do. So what you do is you basically write the answer to the question right in front of it, okay, and then you go back. So now what happens is the next question, you read the next question, question two, like the types for pollution, for instance, and now you know the types for pollution could never be written in the first three paragraphs because they have ended with only the answer to the first question. It's not like uh, you could be facing one question from the start from paragraph 3 and question number 5 from paragraph 1. It's never like this. It's They all are in sequence. Okay. For instance, let me give you an extreme example. If you find the answer to question 1 in the second last paragraph of the first passage, you can never find the rest of these questions, the answer to these questions, that the next question in in the paragraphs before the second last paragraph. So that's out of the question. So you will only find all those answers in the last paragraph or in the second last paragraph after the answer to the first question. Okay. So they are all in sequence. It's not like you have to go back and read the first paragraph and then start again. Never. You only read from after the things that you read already. Okay. It's very clear. So if the question again, if you find question number 3 in the second last paragraph, question number 4 will be in the last paragraph, and question 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Every all of these questions of that passage you will find in the second last paragraph or the last paragraph, and you don't have to go back to the first 5, 6 paragraphs. Okay, that is very clear. So now, let me give you examples of what you are going to be faced with. Like it's going to be uh, because these are comprehension passages. You have to read through, and you have to basically you're just skimming. You don't have to be focused, and you don't have to be making a whole scenario in your mind of what they're talking about. No, you just have to read the lines, and wherever the answer is, you just have to pick the answer from that line and keep forgetting everything else. It's not like you have to memorize everything. No. Okay. And plus, just remember your knowledge that you had before coming to the test. That is not written right in front of you, or that is not uh, feeding right in your that is not being heard by you in your with your micro. What are these called? Like your hands free, and you don't have your pre knowledge. Just remember that. I'm giving you examples of why not. So the thing is, they will give you statements like, let me give you a very raw example. A cow is a very large animal. Okay? A cow is a very large animal. They tell you all the dimensions for the cow. Okay? Like it has the height, like its height is 5 feet 2 inches and whatnot, and its width is this much. Its girth is this much. Its weight is this much, and whatever. All these things are being mentioned in the paragraph. But what they ask you in the questions is is a cow bigger than a sheep? Even if you know, you know, even if you know a cow is bigger than a sheep, no doubt about it. We all know. But because they haven't mentioned it, because they haven't compared them to, like, the sheep and the cow, they haven't compared them in the text. You can't answer it as a yes or as a no. Okay, so it's always true, false, not given, and yes, no, not given. The third option is not given. Okay, just be mindful of that. Most of the times when there is a comparison, most of the times when there is a comparison, you can be assured of that this the answer to this is going to be not given most of the time, but not always. Sometimes they give you a comparison in the test. So if they tell you, like, it's going to be something of the sort, a cow is bigger than a sheep, it's in the paragraph. Or a cow is taller than a sheep, a cow is has more weight than a sheep. Okay, if you face something like that, then you can be assured of, it's true or it's false. But until and unless it's clearly stated in the passage, or You at least they tell you the dimensions for both of them. Like a sheep has is like weighs like 45 kgs, and the cow weighs like 450 kgs. Okay, until they give you some sort of a comparison to be dealing with, the answer to these is going to be not given. Okay, you don't have any you know what's it called, any knowledge. You don't have any knowledge at this point, except for the knowledge that they're giving you in the passage or through your microphones when you oh, sorry, through your what are AirPods when you're listening to it. In the listening part, everything that they're telling you through their through your, again, AirPods or hands free, is going to be your knowledge, not anything else. And the same for your reading. Whatever is written right in front of you, that's your whole knowledge, nothing else. You don't have any pre knowledge. Okay, just remember that. So next question, other sorts of questions that you could be facing are, um, fill in the blanks. They could be synonyms. So sometimes what happens is you have fill in the blanks. You have the same lines written as were written in the passage, or a crux of that. You can have a paraphrasing of that same paragraph from the text. Okay, in the questions. But now what happens is, you like uh, let me tell you. Okay, so for example, okay, so the question could be, for instance, a man A journeyed across a valley. Okay, so now you are looking for, so they have, you have a blank where the word journey should be. So now you can't just write journey. If they have given you, sometimes what they do is they give you so many words right beneath, to select from. So what you do is you select the word which is a synonym for journey, like like endeavor, like odyssey. Okay, like path. Okay, so whatever the word that is corresponding to the word journey, you just take that and you put it that you put that word in the in the list, sorry, in the fill in the blank. Okay, in the blank. So it could be odyssey right now. The man was had an odyssey across a valley. So it could be sorry, it could be like that. You just have to be mindful that you should know some synonyms, not all of them. It's not that hard, but they use general synonyms that could be used in place of a word. Okay, that everyone should know. So just update your vocab a little bit, but you shouldn't be focused on that too much. I can provide you with some words later on, after this session is over. I can provide you with some words that you should practice. Okay, then we have like, I already told you, you have true false not given, yes no not given. And if you have true false not given, you are supposed to be writing true false and not given. And if you have yes no not given, then you should be writing yes no not given. Then you have questions like MCQs. Everyone knows MCQs. You have four options. Then you have to pick the right one out of the text. Whatever the sense is, whatever the sense of the paragraph was, you have to be mindful of that, and you have to pick the right answer. So it's not that hard. And then I will tell you one more thing. Sometimes what you do, what you face is, you face a passage. So you face a passage with each paragraph, like paragraph A, B, C, D. With each paragraph, they marked as, you know, paragraph A, or A, B, C, D, E, F, G. All these paragraphs in one passage are are marked as A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, whatever, wherever it ends. Like most of the time, it ends at G or H. Okay, so always do this sort of a passage with demarked passages or denoted passages with numbers or alphabets like A, B, C, D. Always do this passage in the end, not at the start or not in the middle. Always at the end. Now I'll tell you why. But the thing is, this is always in the increasing level of difficulty. Like paragraph, sorry, the passage one is, you know, it's easy. The passage two is a little moderate. Passage three is a little tough. Okay, it's a lot more difficult than the rest of the two. But if you have like A, B, C, D, denoted paragraphs in passage A, even if you have this in passage A, you should do it in the end. And I'll tell you why. Because in this sort of a passage, the questions other than the normal questions like fill in the blanks, true false not given, and MCQs, the other type of question is the most difficult and the most time consuming part could be in this passage. And the question is, this information is written in which paragraph, or which paragraph pertains to this piece of information, or which this is the theme. Like they will give you like four or five different statements, statement A, B, C, D, E, or statement one, two, three, four, and they will tell you to cross match these statements on the basis of theme or general idea, or on the basis of theme or general idea to all the paragraphs of the same passage. Okay, so now what you have to be doing is you have to go through paragraph A, you have to read through all that paragraph, make a sense out of it, match that paragraph to all these three, four lines, three or four or five statements which they have provided in the questions. So it is a much more time consuming process. Like you go through paragraph A, then paragraph B, paragraph C. For instance, you find that in the you find one statement, you know, in paragraph D, but you will waste so much time on this that you will lose all your marks for the next few passages. So always do this sort of an endeavor in your last. Okay, if you find a passage with A, B, C, D, D mark paragraph, always do that in the end because it is going to be troublesome and it is going to take a lot more time. Okay, so these are like 40 questions. There are 40 questions in this reading passage. In all these three reading passages, it could be like 13, 13, 14, or 14, 13, 13, 13, 14, 13. So the total is always 40. Okay, just remember that. And huh. So in this reading portion, in this reading section, you won't have the time. You won't have separate time to fill in the answer sheet. So what you have to do is whenever you end one passage and all the questions in one passage, you just transfer them at the same time onto the answer sheet. Okay, when you're done with one section, just transfer that onto the answer sheet and then go to the next passage. And remember, treat it like the MCAT. Okay, don't be focused on one passage for the whole time. All the questions have equal marks. Just go through the test once with doing everything that you can do in that time. Then come back. Okay, so for instance, you might have done 25, 26, 27, 30 questions in your first attempt. Then the questions that are left, these are the most difficult part. Like right, so then go back and read which try to answer them. But this will save most of your time, and this will guarantee most marks because every question has the same mark. Don't be focused on one passage or one question for too long. Just read through it, and if you can't find it, leave that question first. Go to the next, solve everything, come back and read that question again. Try to solve it again. Okay, this is going to be the best method for you to be solving the reading test. For me, I think the reading test is the most difficult part for IELTS because it is academic reading. You are going to be facing uh, you know topics that you never faced before, like for instance geology. We don't I faced a a passage filled with geological knowledge, and I didn't know what anything was, like what a geode was. There was a word like geode. I never knew what a geode was. But what I had to do is I had to skim through all that and just answer the question and not be too focused on what they're telling me about and what the passages are all about. I'm just here to answer the questions. I read the line, and I try to find it in the text, and that's all. I skim through, I reach that line, make up the answer, whatever the answer could maybe. It could be true, it could be false, it could be yes, no, it could be no, it could be uh, a synonym to a word, anything. So just be mindful of that. You don't have to be learning everything. It's not about learning. You just have to skim through everything and then reach your desired line and then extract your answer from it. That's it. Okay. So next is writing. Okay. So the thing was, uh, in general, reading, it's very easy. Like I told you, general reading is easy, and you don't have to be facing so many research topics or scientific knowledge. It's easy, but academic reading is difficult. You have to be focused on it, and you have to do it many times. You have to practice it at home so many times to be perfect at it, and to guarantee most marks. And then we're going to start with the writing part. And for this is the time you will be allowed is like 60 minutes. So there are two different sections for it: writing task one and writing task two. Writing task one for academic writing is report writing, and for general training, this is a letter, a letter to someone. Okay, but we are not focused on it today. We are just focused on academic writing, and the first part is report writing. So, for instance, the first part, you have like a graph right in front of you. You face a graph. The graph tells you it's a population curve or a demograph. Okay, it tells you the populations of different countries like Pakistan, India, China, the US, the UK. Okay, from 1940s up till 2010. Okay, so this is the information right in front of you. There is a graph telling you this information. You have to convert this into your own statements, into your own text, basically. And always keep in mind, you have to be doing, even if it says you can use a pen or a pencil, they tell you to use a pencil. They actively tell you to use a pencil because otherwise, what is going to happen is if you do something wrong, you'll have to cut it. But if you're using a pencil, you can just erase it and then you can write it again. Okay, you can restructure things again. You can restructure paragraphs. You can restructure your sentences again. So so that the things are not set. The word for it is set in stone, which you can't change. So it's not like you can't change anything. You have the option to change everything in the given time. So just use a pencil. Try to use a pencil at home for practice. Okay. So now we're going to talk about the first part, report writing. You have a graph right in front of you. So there are three distinct things that you should be doing in the report writing part. The first is the introduction to whatever the picture is right in front of you. It could be a graph, it could be a cycle, it could be an image, it could be a map, anything. So, for instance, there is a graph, a demograph, a population curve, like I told you, from 1940s to 2010, India, China, Pakistan, and US and UK. For US and UK. Okay, so now, for in the first paragraph, you have to be mindful that there are three distinct sections. The first section is going to be you explaining what the graph is about. Okay, so what you write is the graph is the picture right in front of us, or the the diagram represented in the question is a demograph or is a population curve. It uh, compares the populations of four different countries or five different countries from 1940s to 2010. Okay, and if you can't come up with enough words, what you can do is you can explain what the horizontal axis is and what the vertical axis is pertaining to. Like the horizontal axis is pertaining to the decades, like the years from 1940, 1950, 1960, 1970, 80, 90, 2000, 2010. Okay, so you have to be explaining this. You can explain this, but it is not a good approach to explain horizontal and vertical axis. But if you don't have like three or four sentences in a paragraph, because a paragraph can't be one sentence. It has to be three or four sentences at least. So if you can make three or four sentences, this could be an approach for you. Just write what the horizontal and what the vertical axis is explaining. Okay, and in the next thing, the next paragraph, what you would be writing is what you would be writing is generals or similars. Okay, so for instance, all the populations or the populations for China, India, and Pakistan, they were increasing, and the US, they were increasing from 1940s to 1960s. Then you will basically be writing all the populations will are increasing from this time to this time. This is you know a general statement regarding all these three three or four countries. And if, for instance, you have you know similarities for two different countries like US and for instance for Russia, then you write that in this paragraph too. So this paragraph only contains generals or similars. Okay, write everything that is of some sort of a similarity between these four different or five different countries. Okay, then the next paragraph, moving on to the next paragraph, and after that, if even if you make three, four, five, it doesn't matter. At least what you should be focused on is three paragraphs, three or four. You have to be making four, three or four. Okay, so next paragraph is going to be regarding differences. Okay, so now you explain everything that is different between these three, four, or five countries. Like for instance, US, it stopped its population growth in the 1960s, and now after that, its population basically started to decline. And in 2000, in the year 2000, it has been uh, the lowest it has ever been on the graph. You can't say from your own knowledge. Okay, you just have to say what is mentioned in the graph. Okay, and then you talk about the UK, the you know the USSR, or Russia, or China and Pakistan, India, whatever. So the third paragraph, the fourth paragraph, the third and fourth, these are going to be differences in the three or four domains that you are going to be speaking of. Okay, just be mindful of a handful of things. Always make paragraphs. This is what they're looking for. It's not like you can just make one paragraph from the start till the end. It's not like that. You have to be making paragraphs in writing task 1 and in writing task 2. They are always looking at this. Okay, and for writing task 1, report writing, you have to be mindful that you can't use personal pronouns. You can't say I can understand, that or you can understand, one can understand. No, you should always write the graph represents, the diagram shows, the the graph explains, or whatever. Okay, it's not like I can understand or whatever. It's don't use these in the writing task 1. You can use these personal pronouns in writing task 2. Okay, and plus there is no opinion in writing task 1. It's not about your opinion. You just have to explain everything. You just have to explain everything that is written or shown in the graph. So for instance, the graph ends at 2010, but even after 2010, Pakistan's population is still increasing. you know you can't say in writing task 1 or in the report writing, even now, even in 2020, the or 22, the population of Pakistan is still increasing. Don't do that. You just end the information where the graph ends it, or where the diagram has ended. You can't extrapolate that data. You can't have your own opinion. You and plus
there is no conclusion to the writing task one. You can't write a conclusion. Just state all the things that they have stated, that they have asked you to state, the the information that they have provided. Just state that. There should be no opinion or no conclusion on your part. Okay. So the thing that I was going to tell you is, be mindful of lexicon or the lexical control or vocabulary. So if you used the word explained once, you should say demonstrate, then shows, and whatever. You should be changing these words 3 or 4 times at least. Okay. You can't use the same word over and over again. You can't say show, 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 show so many times. Change the word, demonstrate, explain, and whatever. So now we're going to talk about writing task 2. Writing task 2 is essay writing. Because this is an essay, you can have your opinion. In the first one, you didn't have an opinion. And plus, in this one, you have a conclusion. Because you have an opinion, you can make a conclusion. This is an this is a subjective view of a topic. That was an objective view of a topic. Okay. So you didn't have any opinion in that one, but you do have an opinion in this one. Okay. So now, how you're going to what they are focused on in this task is, they are mindful. They look at how they check your papers is, they look at your paragraphing. If you made paragraphs, you are supposed to be making paragraphs, and one paragraph has one central idea, and could have many different ideas and supporting ideas. Okay. Like secondary ideas. Okay. So for instance, you're talking about pollution. Okay. For instance, you're talking about the environment. From the start, you talk about the environment, then you start talking about pollution, you define pollution. Then in the next one, the third paragraph, you start talking about, in the the third and fourth or fifth paragraph, you start talking about the types of pollution. Okay. Like land, air, water, noise pollution, whatever. Then in the sixth or seventh paragraph, you can't go back to the definition of pollution. No, you have to be focused on something else. You can't use the same lines over and over again. You can't use the same ideas over and over again. When you used one idea, that's it. One idea for one paragraph, and you can't use the same information again and again. Okay. Once you mention something, that's the end for that particular topic. Then you have to change it. And there has to be a logical, link between two different things, like two different paragraphs, or in the same paragraph, two different lines should have a logical link. Okay. For instance, you can't be talking about space travel and cows and buffaloes in the same paragraph. Or, you can be talking about this if you have a logical link to it. Like, man started from raising barn animals like cows and buffaloes, but now we are experiencing space travel. We have reached the moon, we have reached Mars, whatever. So there has to be a logical flow to it. Plus, always remember, change the words. Change the word. If you've used like teacher once, don't use the word teacher again. Use the word guide, mentor, whatever. Change these words. I will provide you with some words that you should be changing. Okay. What you have to do with them is, they are a list of like 100 words. Okay. You all know them. Like three or four of the whole list would be unknown to you. Mostly. What you do is, like, there is a main word, like nullify. Okay. Then it has a few words beneath it, which pertain to the synonym of that word, which are the synonyms of that word, like nullify, ameliorate, abrogate. So or annul. Okay. So what you do is, you make sentences. you know you just have to speak sentences. Okay. The pain was mitigated, the pain was ameliorated, the problem was abrogated, the whatever, the problem was nullified. Try to change the sentences and these words. Keep, at least speak these sentences once a day. So you have to be speaking 100 sentences or 105 sentences a day just to practice this. Okay, I will send these words in the group. Okay, so don't be worried about that. Okay, so yeah, the first topic, the first writing task, you had like 20 minutes to do it, and it pertains to 3 out of the 6 bands for the writing task. Okay, 3 out of the 6. The second part is the major portion. It pertains to 6 out of the 9 bands. Okay, and so so the same. They tell you to complete the writing task 1 in 20 minutes and writing task 2 in 40 minutes. But what I'm going to tell you is you can give writing task 1 25 minutes and writing task 2 35 minutes, or you can give them both 30 minutes. Because when you're looking at a diagram and you're looking at information, you have to you structureize the information. You have to make a structure for it. It takes a long time, so you can take 30 minutes for the writing task 1, because it is like 150 words. You have to write 150 to 180 words. Don't go above 180, and don't go you don't write less than 150 words, because they will deduct marks for this. Okay, 150 to 180 is the range. Next thing is for writing task 2, for the essay writing, what you do is, for writing task 2, you only write 250 to 280 words. Okay, 250 to 280 words, not less, and certainly not beyond this range. 250 to 280. You can make an average of the first 2 lines, like you've written 7 to 8 words in the first line, or and 7 to 8 words or 9 words in the second line. Just make an average of the first 3 lines. Like for instance, you wrote 7 words in the first line, 8 words in the second line, 9 words in the third line. So the average of these 3 lines is going to be 8. 7 plus 8 plus 9 divided by 3. So now you have a benchmark. Like, you have this in mind, that I am on an average I'm writing 8 words per line. Just count all the lines, multiply it, and you will get a round of figure of what your exact word limit is. Okay, of what how many words that you've written. It's not like you have to be counting everything. Just make a rough estimate of the first 3 and then multiply it with the rest. Okay, so this is how you're going to be calculating your words in the same time. Just give 30 to 35 minutes for writing task 2, 30 minutes, 25 to 30 minutes to the writing task 1. And I'll tell you one more thing. And sometimes basically there are 2 sort of questions that they ask. Sometimes what they do is they give you a topic and they ask you, what's your opinion on this matter? Okay. So what you do is, for instance, feminism. Now what you do is you write all the pros and the cons, or the merits and demerits, positives and negatives of feminism, and then at the end you conclude with, even if it has its pros and its cons, but because of these points, because of these pros or these cons, I am either prone prone to it or against it, whatever. Okay, you have to be in the conclusion, you have to conclude whatever it is. But throughout you could be focused, you can't be focused on one. You have to write both these things, the positives and the negatives. But in the second scenario, when they ask you, feminism is trending throughout, there is a statement, feminism is trending throughout the world these days. Women throughout the globe are feminists, and even men are endorsing this idea of feminism. Are you against it, or are you pro feminism? If they ask you something of this sort, are you against it or are you with it? So now you have to take one specific route to it. You can't be mentioning both the pros and the cons. Just remember this. You just write, you take one particular path. Like, and I'll tell you, because this is their test, just be mindful. Just be mindful. You can't have your own Eastern values into it. Okay. You have to be supporting feminism. Okay. You have to be supporting the idea of free speech. Okay. You have to be supporting the idea of free speech. You have to be against the idea of beating sense into children. So all the Eastern values have to be replaced with with the Western values. Just be focused on that. Just be mindful of that. Okay. So now you have you have, for instance, you chosen to be pro feminism. Okay. So now you can only write the positive aspects of feminism and none of the negative aspects. Okay. So that is clear from the get go. You are only going to write the positive aspects and conclude in the same manner that it is a positive thing to behold and a positive thing to uphold in the society these days. Okay. This is how you're going to conclude it. And the first scenario which I gave you is that they asked you to compare the pros and the cons, but in this one they didn't ask you. They just asked you to to basically choose one route out of the two. Okay, not the two. So you are either against it or you're pro whatever the topic is, so you take that route. So this is it. you know uh, because in the reading and the listening part you have a complete score at the end of every time. You're doing a test, you have a key, you match it with the key, you know where you're standing. But in the speaking or the writing part, you don't have that kind of luxury. So you have to be mindful of these particular parameters of which you are going to be comparing yourself to, or you're writing to, or you're listening to, or sorry, you're speaking to. Okay. So it is more of a subjective thing. It is not like it's objective in any point of view. It is subjective. Subjective means when you do have an opinion about it. If a checker, if the person who's checking your paper has his opinion to whatever you're writing is, he has his opinion, and he is checking whatever you're writing, or whatever the it is right in front of him. Okay, I will give you an example of objective and subjective view. Someone asks you if you prefer Honda Civic or Corolla. Okay. And then if you only stick to the specifications of the cars, like the RPM, the body, the build, whatever, and then you only tell them about these things, and you give your answer about these, and it's basically your answer is built on these particular parameters that have been set as a standard. Then this is called the objective view. But if you take the opposite route and you say, even if the Corolla might have these qualifications, strong points, but still, because I like the sound of Civic, or I like the feel of Civic, I like the looks of Honda Civic, I prefer it. Then it's called the subjective view. Okay. So writing task one is always objective. Writing task two is always subjective. Just be mindful of that. Okay. So now we're going to talk about speaking. Okay. So speaking is always one-on-one conversation. There is going to be an examiner who is going to be testing you, and then you are going to be the examinee, or the candidate, if you will. Okay, so there are three distinct parts of the speaking part of the speaking test. Okay, in the first part, it's going to be a general introduction. So what happens is you come from outside and you knock, or you ask the test taker, or the examiner. You are the test taker and they are the examiner, and you ask them, may I come in? And they say, certainly, you can come in. And then you say, thank you. And then they ask you to sit down, and then you sit down, and then you say thank you so much. Now what is going to happen is they ask you, can I see your identification? And then you show them your ID card or passport, whichever you selected beforehand. Uh when you're in the process of deciding a date or booking for the test, they ask you what your identification document is going to be. So you either select passport or ID card. Okay. So whichever you selected, then you just give them that at that time. If you selected ID card, then you give your ID card, or if you selected your passport, you provide them with you give them, you hand them off your passport, and then you say, here you are, sir. And then, because this is a verbal conversation, this is a verbal test. It's not like it's going to be all about gestures. It is a verbal test. Okay, you say, here you are, sir, and then they say, okay. They check it, they match you to it, and then they give back, they give it back to you, and then you say, thank you so much, and then you keep it. And then what happens is they start explaining it. They start explaining you that how the test goes. Okay, so as you know, they will say, as you know, you are going to take the official IELTS speaking test, and they are going to be three parts, three distinct parts. This is them explaining it to you. The first part is going to be general uh, qualities about you, your likes and dislikes, and your general introduction. This is what they're going to say, more or less. Okay, the words are obviously different from mine, but this is the crux of what they're going to say. Okay, mostly the time for the whole test is like 15 minutes, 12 to 14 minutes is what they're looking for. Okay, if if you speak less, then obviously you won't hit the 12-minute benchmark. Okay, and if you don't hit the 12-minute benchmark, then obviously you wouldn't score good enough. Okay. Yeah, I forgot to tell you, in the writing and in the speaking, never use these words like good, bad, okay, nice. These are the words that a 5-year-old knows, or anyone who is completely illiterate. He already knows these words like okay, nice, good, bad, it's good, it's nice, it's okay, whatever. Don't use these words. Like you have good for, a word replacing good for every sort of of a possibility. Like this room is fantastic. The hall is marvelous. You look beautiful. So you can either, you could have said you look good, this room is good, the hall is good, but you have to be using different words for the word good. And they expect you to be using different, otherwise they're going to be deducting your marks. So we are not going to be using good, bad, okay, and nice, or and stuff like this, which is very very cliche these days. So now, for the first part is going to be like, what is your name? And then you say, my name is Dr. Ahmed bin Shazad. And then they ask you, what can I call you? And then you say, you can call me Dr. Ahmed. Then they can also, also ask you, what do your friends call you? And then you say, my friends call me Hemi or Ahmed or whatever. Okay. Okay. So then they ask you, what which is your favorite season? A season means, not a season doesn't mean a TV show. It means the season of weather. Okay. They can ask you, what is your favorite TV show, but they will say TV show. Don't confuse season with a TV show. Okay. So you start explaining, I like summer season, it has hot and humid weather, but I like the fruits that come along with it, like I like mango. And because I like, mango only comes in this season, I prefer summer season over winter season. The key to it is never give a one line answer, and never say no. No is never an answer in IELTS. Okay, if they ask you, have you ever gone to a boat ride, and if you haven't, please don't say no. Just say yes, and then make up a story. Even yes is not an answer. One line answer or single word answer is not an answer. You have to be speaking for like 20, 30 minutes. Like, yes, once I went to the River Ravi. There is a boat riding service there. Me and my family went on a boat ride. It was, we had a great time, and we caught a few fish. Make up a story. Make up a story. You have to be making up a story. It's not like it's a test of honesty, or if you're speaking the truth. No, they're just there to test your English. And if if you're giving a one line answer, they wouldn't be getting a good idea of how good you are, or how proficient you are in speaking English or writing English or whatever. Okay, so you have to be speaking for 20 to 30 seconds per answer. Okay. And the questions could be like, what's your favorite, who's your favorite teacher? And uh, which is your favorite sibling? Which season do you like? Which TV show is your favorite? Do you watch movies? Stuff like that. So this will end. Try to make it as long as possible. And do not, I repeat, do not shut up until they ask you they will say, so the next question is, okay, until they make you go quiet, don't be quiet. It will give a bad impression. Keep on speaking until they ask you to stop speaking. Okay. Then the part two comes. They will give you a cue card. Then they will say, now we're going to be going through the part two of the IELTS speaking test. And this is called a discussion topic. I'm giving you a cue card. A cue card is like a card. It has your question written on it. Okay. And they give you a pencil and a paper also. So you read the question. They tell you you have 1 minute to read the question, to write any points down on the piece of paper with the pencil for 1 minute, and then you will have 2 minutes to speak about the topic. Okay. So in that 1 minute, you just read the question, you write the points only, don't write complete sentences because you don't have time. Like, again I'm stuck on pollution today. So it could be like, what do you know about pollution? So you should say, the line reads, you should say types of what are the types of pollution, wo- and what are the harms of pollution, the definition of pollution, and whatnot. It's not that hard. Some people might not know about pollution, but it's not that hard. It's just general knowledge. Okay. It's not going to be about international affairs or politics. It's easy, it's general. Okay. Just be mindful of that. Okay. It's so what you do is make points, and then after 1 minute they will ask you for the pencil and the cue card. They will take the pencil and the cue card back, and you will be left with the piece of paper. So now you start speaking. Now you start speaking for the 2 minutes. They will be silent. They will do whatever they want, but you are to be speaking for the whole 2 minutes. Even if I will give you extreme examples of it. Even if they stand up, they go out of the room, no matter. Even if they start writing something else, if even if they get a phone call, even if someone comes out, comes into the room and starts speaking to the examiner, you are not to be silent. You are to be speaking throughout. You are going to be speaking until he stops you. Okay. When he says start, when he says stop, are your reference points. You start at the start point, you end when they ask you to end. That's all. Okay. This takes a lot of practice. So it takes 15 minutes to practice the whole you know speaking part per day. So do it every day. Make you can have a speaking buddy. Just ask them to ask you questions, and I will give you speaking topics too. Okay. I will give the link to you too. So it's not going to be that hard. And even if someone doesn't give you this topic, what you can do is you can go to Google and you can write IELTS speaking test, and you'll find so many example papers. Okay. Plus, there is no course to IELTS. I forgot to mention this. People are confused about this. There is no course. There is nothing that you have to memorize or anything like that. There are only papers. Even if you get the official IELTS books, there are only papers that you need to be practicing. 15, 16 books you have to be practicing. You Even if you practice like 4 or 5 books, it's enough, I think. So after that you can go and take the test. I think 1.5 month or 1 month is enough time for anyone to 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 score an 8 or score a 7.5, because it took me like 1.5 month. And I did join an academy, but for the speaking part alone. Oh, sorry, writing task alone. Because I was getting 39, 38 in reading and listening, and my speaking was also fine. It wasn't up to the mark, but it was fine. But I didn't know where I stood regarding writing. This is the most confusing part, right? But if you compare yourself to the standards that they're going to be comparing, paragraphing and lexical control, vocabulary, whatever. So if you compare yourself to that, and then you will have a good idea of, you can give that you test to anyone who's done the IELTS before, and they can check it for you too. That could be a good approach to it. Okay, so now the third part is basically a sequel to your discussion topic. They can ask you questions similar to those, like what about climate change? Does pollution have any play in climate change? Does it have any role in climate change? So now the difference in this part is, obviously, that the questions have gotten a little tougher, but they're not that tough. But any answer that you provide them with, they can cross question you from that answer. Okay, like they can ask you, like you were speaking about noise pollution, but don't you play a part in noise pollution yourself? You are obviously saying that we shouldn't be a cause of noise pollution, but if you use a car, you honk your horn. Don't you play a part in noise pollution? They can ask you cross questions before, in the first part. In the second part, they wouldn't bother to ask any question. They can't ask any question. They are only asking the questions that they have a list of. Okay, they have a list for every particular candidate, and they're asking you questions from that. So in the third part, they still have that list, they still have those questions, but they can ask you cross questions. Okay, just be mindful of that. So you have to be speaking for 12 to 14 minutes straight. The interview should be lasting for 14 minutes. You have to be targeting 14-15 minutes, so that you don't end up way before. Okay, so this is all. Any questions from anyone?
डॉक्टर साहब बहुत शुक्रिया। आई थिंक
Wait
इट्स
1 second.
ऑलरेडी 1.25 घंटा हो गया।
Just 1 second. Yes, again, please.
मैं कह रहा हूँ कि 1.25 घंटा हो गया, तो ये आपने बहुत डिटेल में बताया। तो टोफल का आज शायद ना हो पाए, तो मैं उसका जो पार्टिसिपेंट है उनको बता देता हूँ, सोर्स बता देता हूँ। अगर आप यूट्यूब पे जाएंगे तो यहाँ पे 2 चैनल हैं, TST प्रेप टोफल एक ये है, और दूसरा नोटफुल के नाम से है एक, नोटफुल, ये वाला। इन्होंने बहुत अच्छा एक्सप्लेन किया हुआ है टोफल का, और टिप्स इनकी बहुत अच्छी हैं, यूट्यूब की इनके पूरे लेक्चर पढ़े हैं। तो आप इधर से जाके ये आपको पूरी डिटेल में बताएंगे। इधर से जाके अगर आप अच्छा, स्क्रीन शेयर नहीं हो रही थिंक।
मतलब जितनी देर आप स्क्रीन शेयर करें, मैं ये भी बता दूं कि जिसने आइल्स का लिसनिंग टेस्ट करना हो, वो उस पर चला जाए, यूट्यूब पे जाके लिखे बुक 1 टेस्ट 1, खाली बुक 1 टेस्ट 1, आपको डायरेक्टली कैम्ब्रिज की बुक 1 आइल्स लिसनिंग टेस्ट 1 पे ले जाएगा। इसी तरह बुक
ओके,
वन टेस्ट टू इसी तरह
ओके।
बुक 2 टेस्ट 1।
टोफल के लिए ये अगर आपने लेक्चर्स सुनने हैं तो ये इनकी प्ले लिस्ट है, नोटफुल टोफल मास्टरी इस नाम से चैनल है, इनके प्लेलिस्ट पड़ी है। वहाँ पे आपको लेक्चर भी मिल जाएंगे, शॉर्ट टिप्स भी मिल जाएंगी, छोटी छोटी टिप्स होती हैं, टेम्पलेट्स होते हैं, वो अगर देखेंगे आपको डिटेल से सारा बताया, ये वहाँ पे है मेंशन। और दूसरा चैनल मैंने आपको बताया था, ये TST प्रेप टोफल के नाम से, ये यहाँ से आपको इसके बारे में सारी डिटेल मिल जाएगी। ये चैनल है TST प्रेप टोफल। तो ये 2 चैनल बहुत ही ज़बरदस्त चैनल हैं। वकैब के लिए वो आपको शेयर कर देंगे, अहमद भाई जो सेंड करेंगे, मैं आपके साथ ग्रुप्स में शेयर कर दूंगा इंशाल्लाह। तो फ़िलहाल तो इतना ही बाकी अगर ज़रूरत पड़ी तो इंशाल्लाह बाद में रख लेंगे। अभी कुछ आगे हैं टास्क जो देखने हैं। 1.5 घंटा हो गया तकरीबन, तो ख़त्म करते हैं। अहमद भाई बहुत शुक्रिया आपका। हेलो।
कोई बात नहीं मतलब, ये तो हमारा फर्ज है सही ना, सबको
जी,
गाइड
जी,
करना है।
बहुत शुक्रिया। तो
मैं असल में चाह रहा था कोई 1-2 क्वेश्चन अगर किसी के हैं तो वो कर लें, इससे पहले आप चले जाओ, तो रह जाना है, क्योंकि आपने अगली दफा तो कुछ और करना होगा ना।
चलें देख लो, वो इन पर्सन भी पूछ सकते हैं आई थिंक।
पूछ लेते हैं, 2 मिनट दे दो बस आप। मेरा ख्याल है मेरे पास 4:47 हो रहे हैं, तो 4:51 पे खत्म कर देंगे, 3-4 मिनट देंगे, अगर किसी का क्वेश्चन है तो।